Donald Trump Jr. and his lawyer are demanding an investigation into Adam Schiff after Schiff left a December 6, 2017, closed-door House Intelligence Committee hearing at which Trump Jr. was testifying. And right at the exact times Schiff would leave the committee hearing, Manu Raju from CNN would tweet confidential, non-public information that had just occurred in the committee. It really wasn't too hard to see who the leaker was. Now, remember that phrase I just used, non-public information. Let me read you a couple of excerpts from Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyer, a guy named Alan Futerfass's letter to Michael Conway, the chairman of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence over in the House. He's referring to the December 6th testimony of Donald Trump Jr., 9 hours of testimony that day. We're going to get in a second, we're going to get into why that's so egregious. But Trump Jr.'s attorney writes, quote, at approximately 1:01 p.m., while the interview was in progress, members of the committee and or their staff began selectively leaking information provided during the interview to various press outlets, most notably CNN. He then goes on to say, CNN's Manu Raju on December 6, 2017 at 1:01 p.m. and 4:29 p.m. A tweet from CNN's April D. Ryan on December 6, 2017 at 3:57 p.m. and an article filed shortly thereafter by Manu Raju and Jeremy Herb of CNN. So in other words, from an investigative standpoint, and I've told you this on the show before, a timeline is everything. You've got Adam Schiff and or members of his staff leaving the committee hearing in a minute in some cases. In real time, CNN is leaking information that's coming from this confidential, non-public, closed-door committee. Trump Jr.'s attorney goes on to say, quote, after the interview, the public release of confidential, this is the important phrase, non-public information by committee members continued unabated. For example, that same evening and the following days, several members of the minority, the Democrats, including Representatives Schiff, Speer, and Swalwell, appeared on the news to discuss certain details of the interview in an attempt to discredit my client, Don Jr. They did not accurately portray the breadth, scope, and substance of the interview. Now, this is incredibly, incredibly troubling. Now, the non-public information is important, and here's why. Let me read you what Schiff's spokesman, let me read you the denial, Schiff's spokesman, the denial, which is really an admission. So Schiff's spokesman, a guy named Patrick Boland, responded by saying, quote, the congressman and his staff do not leak classified or confidential information. He never said that they don't and didn't leak non-public information, which is the actual classification for information in this closed-door hearing. They didn't deny leaking the information. He then goes on to say, and this is one that'll make your blood boil, quote, we do not permit, we being Representative Schiff and his staff, we do not permit witnesses to represent publicly that they are fully cooperating with our committee and privately refuse to answer questions pertinent to our investigation on the basis of meritless claims of privilege. He's saying there, in his spokesperson speak, is Don Jr. and his attorney said they're going to go in and fully cooperate with the committee. During the questioning, probably by Democrats on the committee, Trump Jr. and his attorney, in conference, made a decision that the question being asked was covered under some type of privilege. Could have been executive privilege, a conversation he had with his dad after his dad was president. It could have been attorney-client privilege, a conversation he had with his lawyer or a transition team lawyer. But they made a legal decision, which is completely permissible under our Constitution. It's why we have a Bill of Rights and why you're given legal protections. You know, the right to remain silent, you have a right to an attorney, your Miranda rights, and all that fun stuff, even though he wasn't under arrest, but you have an absolute right to counsel under our Constitution. They made a legal constitutional determination that some of the questions being asked, if answered, would violate privilege, and he was not willing to waive that privilege. But Adam Schiff didn't like that. So Adam Schiff, what he's really saying here is, I find your constitutional claim of privilege meritless. And Adam Schiff is really, really nervous because he doubled down on this bogus Trump-Russia collusion nonsense. He doubled down on the fake news dossier, and this whole house of cards is going to come crashing down, and he is going to be severely politically damaged on the national level. Maybe not so much in his far-left blue district in California, but any political capital that he has in the House, especially with Republicans, will disappear overnight. He knows that, and he may very well be sanctioned, possibly lose his Senate seat if the leaks were egregious enough. Now, this is particularly troubling And what Republicans and conservatives need to do is galvanize together. And they need to go to the chairman, Chairman Conaway of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, and say, look, we believe in the rule of law. We believe in transparency. If asked to testify before your committee, we'll come. You don't have to subpoena us on the condition that Representatives Schiff, Speer, and Swalwell and their staffs are not present for our testimony. There are other Democrats on the committee. There are Republicans on the committee. We're not asking for all the Democrats to be out of the room. That would be unfair. We're not asking for only hardcore conservative Republicans and no never-Trumpers to be in the room. That would be unfair. We have no problem coming to this committee. But until the House launches a thorough investigation, and maybe even the FBI, on these leaks, we will not testify in front of those three members because we don't feel that they will hold our confidences and they will play by the rules. And Republicans and conservatives are entitled to that. Donald Trump Jr., now full disclosure, I know Don Jr., I think he's a great guy, and I think he's one of the most honest, ethical guys I've ever come across. I really do. And that's not personal bias knowing the guy. I've just watched the guy operate, and I think the guy does everything completely above board. This is nonsense. Don Jr. has now testified for about 23 total hours under oath on a 20-minute opposition research meeting he took before Donald Trump was ever elected president with a Russian lawyer who was permitted into the country by the Obama administration. We now know that whole thing was a setup by Fusion GPS while they were being paid by Hillary Clinton. Excuse me. So we know the whole meeting was a setup. Don Jr. has testified for about 23 hours on that 20-minute meeting. In contrast, Hillary Clinton only testified for 11 hours total on the entire Benghazi massacre and tragedy, wherein 4 Americans died, one of them being our ambassador. And do you know how much time Hillary Clinton has spent testifying on all of the crimes and wrongdoing she's suspected of? Private servers, mishandling of classified information, Uranium One, and the list goes on. Do you know how much time Hillary Clinton has spent testifying? 0. Not a second, not a minute, not an hour, not any part of any day. 0. Not a second of her life has been spent answering questions about clear and present wrongdoing, clear-cut wrongdoing. Yet Don Jr. has had to spend 23 hours testifying on a 20-minute meeting, and there wasn't even a hint of wrongdoing. And that's why Republicans going before that committee should refuse to testify if Schiff, Speer, and Swalwell are in the room. We know Republicans aren't being given a fair shake because when Andrew McCabe, the embattled, I would argue corrupt, conflicted, multiple conflicts of interest surrounding Andrew McCabe, his wife, received $700,000 from Clinton fixer and ally Terry McAuliffe, former governor of Virginia, when she was running for the Virginia State Senate, received that money for her campaign. Andrew McCabe, an overt Hillary supporter and operative, now the Stroke text, Peter Stroke text, talking about meeting in Andy's office, discussing contingency plans to keep Trump from winning the presidency. Andrew McCabe testified to Congress a couple of weeks after Don Jr., more recently here in December. And Andrew McCabe, there wasn't one leak. There wasn't one leak from the room while Andrew McCabe testified. Those same Democrats held his confidences. Now, that encourages me, because if Andrew McCabe's testimony had not been damning to the powers that be at the FBI that weaponized the agency on behalf of Hillary, those same powers at DOJ and Mueller, if his testimony had not been damaging for the people trying to take down Trump and his testimony had not helped Trump, there would have been leaks from Democrats talking about how McCabe was a hero. There was dead silence from that committee on McCabe's closed-door testimony, which tells me that A, the Democrats were in the tank with McCabe, they would never dare leak on him, and B, the info McCabe provided was not good for the Democrats. And what did Adam Schiff do? So after all this comes to light, after Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyer sends this letter to the chairman of the committee, what does Adam Schiff do? Well, Adam Schiff writes an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal in which he resurrects old and now debunked Trump-Russia collusion conspiracies in an attempt to deflect and cover his tracks, because when this all comes to light, Adam Schiff is going to be in a boatload of trouble. He is going to be in a heap of trouble. And he should be, because he has done nothing but subvert the rules and try to bias an investigation against conservatives. This is really important content. And as we go into 2018, I'm going to be expanding my show to an hour so I can bring you much longer, in-depth analyses of this content combined with guests that same day. You'll only be able to get it if you subscribe to our premium service at www.therebel.media/shows. If you're already subscribing, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching.